Han-dun stared intently at the flying dust after the destruction of the mountain. He wasn't sure if any of his opponents were still alive, but he had another urgent task. He made his way towards the young man who sat next to his sister, ordering him to help the girl sit down as he went. Reaching his goal, the man knelt down beside Midden and placed his hands on her wounded back. Jinback was once again surprised to see this. Waves of light were emanating from Han-dun's hands, which the boy mistook for martial arts magic, something incredible and previously unseen. Gradually, the light from the warrior's hands enveloped the girl's entire body in a soft, soothing shimmer. Han-dun needed time to heal. The young man was no longer holding his sister by the shoulder. She was sitting opposite Han-dun herself, and the expression of pain had disappeared from her face. Many thoughts ran through the boy's mind. He realized that if martial arts could be used for both good and evil, there was nothing admirable about them. A bitter disappointment overtook him. Meanwhile, under the influence of Han-dun's power, the wounds on Midden's back were gradually healing. The old man lying on the ground was slowly coming to his senses after being hit by one of the mercenaries. Jinback looked around. Devastation surrounded them, and defeated enemies lay nearby. The boy realized how brutal what was going on was. This battle had cost the lives of many people. After gathering his strength, the grandfather finally came to his senses. He called out to his granddaughter, remembering how she had been held down by the mad woman with her claws. The girl couldn't answer her grandfather as the warrior was still continuing the healing process. Jinback, seeing his grandfather conscious, exclaimed in surprise, asking if he was all right. Han-dun hurriedly assured the elderly man that he would be fine. He transferred his power to Midden and pulled the poison from her body. A grimace of despair appeared on the old man's face. He begged the warrior to save his granddaughter, for if he could do the right thing, the poisoning process could be reversed. Suddenly the pile of stones moved, and a female figure emerged from the rubble. Shinny survived and looked at her enemy with a grin, fury and superiority blazing in her eyes. The woman slowly adjusted her gloves, one of her main weapons of assassination. Han-dun watched her actions worriedly. He couldn't take his hands off the girl, because if the power transfer process was interrupted, the little girl would definitely die. Shinny hissed words of contempt, surprised that the man would think he could defeat her with a single blow. The claws of her gauntlets were now colored not scarlet, but poisonous green, bringing even more terror to the common people. Exclaiming that she had changed as much as he had, Shinny lunged to attack the warrior. The old man was surprised, but the boy who had watched the woman rise from the pile of stones had time to prepare himself and loaded his rifle. Han-dun, focused on healing Midden, felt a growing threat. He realized that he couldn't protect the girl and fight Shinny at the same time. Jinback, clutching the gun in his hands, felt the gravity of the situation. He realized that his sister's life and the fate of the warrior now depended on his actions. Even the most powerful warriors who had mastered martial arts were powerless against a bullet fired almost at point-blank range. The woman turned her head in the direction of the shot and her eyes widened in surprise as she saw the bullet flying at her. With a wave of her hand, she knocked it back to the ground. Jinback hurried to reload his gun, and Shinny gave him a questioning look, wondering who this boy was who dared to get in her way. Jinback hurriedly reloaded his gun, and Shinny gave him a questioning look, wondering who this boy was who dared to stand in her way. Han-dun tried to stop him by shouting a warning that it was dangerous to shoot Shinny, but the young man ignored his words. The young man pointed the muzzle of the gun at the woman who was trying to kill his sister. Despite his fear, he felt compelled to protect his family. Shinny saw the fear in his eyes and grinned, noting that the tool was useless in front of her. However, the guy shot again. With a crazed expression on her face, the woman swung her hand again, fending off another shot. The wave of power emanating from her hands was directed at Jinback, and he screamed. The villainess knocked him into a pile of rocks and was quite pleased with the result, confident that no one would interfere with her now. The young man was lying on the ground, his back and legs pressed by a huge rock. The boy's body did not move, and trying to move caused unbearable pain. She grinned wickedly and told him that from now on he wouldn't go where he shouldn't. Then she turned around and walked towards the warrior sitting next to the girl. Jinback couldn't watch calmly as this crazy woman approached his little sister. He knew she didn't have an ounce of pity or humanity in her. Suddenly, his hand began to emit a faint golden glow, which surprised him and gave him strength. The villainess stepped close to the warrior, determined to make him one last offer. If he would return with her to Mr. Jicho, she would be magnanimous and allow the girl to be healed. The woman hoped the man would make the right choice and decided to hurry him along, leaving a scratch from her poisonous claw on his neck. However, Han was adamant. He declared that he would rather die than serve a villain like Jicho. Shinny was disappointed. This fool chose death over greatness, proving to be too much like his teacher. With a chuckle, she said that since he had made up his mind, he would. She would kill him, and the girl would die as well. The woman swung her clawed hand, but suddenly she saw something strange that confused her. A powerful wave of golden energy was flying straight towards her. A moment more and Shinny wouldn't have been able to react in time, but she managed to jump aside. The old man and the warrior stared at the direction from which that powerful charge had been released without hiding their surprise. Jinback was once again, albeit unsteadily, standing on his feet. He was holding a rifle with a golden cloud hovering around its muzzle. However, he didn't stand for long, just a moment, and his legs began to tremble with weakness. He himself seemed to be surprised at what he had just done, and eventually, he just collapsed to the ground unconscious. Shinny froze in amazement. It looked like the boy was able to infuse the most ordinary gun with energy. The woman realized that there was a real talent hidden in this youngster that could be developed to unprecedented limits. However, if not killed now, in the future, this gifted young man could become a real problem, more dangerous than that fool Han, and would pose a threat to Mr. Jicho. After a brief pause, Shinny looked at the guy and decided that she should deal with him right now so that he wouldn't bother her anymore. But before she could do anything, an old man's voice sounded behind her back, demanding her to stop. A man, limping and leaning on a stick, came closer and said that he had heard them talking about Jade and added that if the woman was looking for divine Jade, she should go after it. The elderly man said that there was no Jade here in this village and she had wasted the lives of her subordinates. Shinny and Han gazed intently at the old man's face. Each of them wondered if he really knew the place where the Jade was hidden. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments to help the new video come out as soon as possible. Have a great day.